It's all a story. It's a beautiful story.
Do you know more about how your people birthed before they were taken over? Before they were made to move into different places? Before they were in the old ways?
Well, what I know are things that I can read in some books. And we, at a Mana conference one year, reenacted the story of Pretty Shield. And it's actually in the book, The Power of Women. A little bit of that story and a photo of that. And it's a beautiful story of a reenactment of Native American women birthing, which is pretty common, you know, even across the tribes and across the North and South. But for my people, which I trust, I trust the story even more. And it doesn't matter if all the facts are right in a story. It doesn't make any difference. It doesn't matter if the story says Thursday when it was really Saturday. Because that's not the story or the truth of the story. The truth of the story is going to come through whether the facts get all right or not. And I think that's what I loved so much about Mexico, because I felt like I was seeing the way my people birthed, as I could hear the stories of my grandmother, her own birth, which of course she birthed at home. In the lineage of my people, my mother gave birth to me in a tuberculosis hospital dying, and that was the only hospital birth in the whole lineage of my people. So I didn't birth, I was born in a hospital with no other babies in the hospital, right? Because she was in a tuberculosis sanitarium. And so when I was born, that's my beautiful story, is everyone in the hospital was so excited because I was a live, healthy baby, and everything else in the hospital was dying. So I got this beautiful beginning in the 50s that nobody else got. But all these people were born at home. Mother was born at home. Her mother was born at home. And of course, there were no hospitals before that. And then I had my children at home. And then my daughters have had my granddaughters at home. So we only had that one little glitch, you know, that one. Do I know how my people birthed? They birthed in nature, you know, as opposed to a teepee if it was available. And of course, there's a tradition of using the herbs, heated herbs, and the woman stands over the heated herbs. Oh, it feels so good, just like we'd put a warm cloth.
Just like in Mexico, huh?
And just like in Mexico. So I fell in love with Mexico. And so a lot of the stories are rich from Mexico because they're my common story. Even though they're not exactly my tribe, they're still the tribal people, and they made sense to me. I could hear them, see them, hear the words of my people. And the stories are beautiful. I mean, not just the stories that you hear, but that you live. Then there's another story, and that gets told. And the detail, like I said, the details. One time I was with the elders. They don't read or write, which is a beautiful thing too.
Yeah. You lose things when you learn to read and write. People don't understand that.
Right. Right, and we need to discipline ourselves more to read less and what more. And here I just wrote a book. Imagine that. And I'm saying don't read so much, But if you're gonna read, that's fine too. Read a little bit and have a direct experience of it, or I don't know, go tell the story of what you read. There you go, telling stories again. But the midwives, the elder midwives, here's an example of the story of their way and their people with birth, is the ministers of health would come in and try to test their knowledge, test to see, what they know, what they do. So they'd say, well, when you're interviewing a woman or having prenatal care, doing prenatal care, in your initial interview, do you ask them, how many pregnancies they've had? And the midwives would say no. Well, do you ask them, if they've ever had an miscarriage? In Mexico it's called a natural abortion, but it's a miscarriage. No. Well, do you ask them? And they asked this long lineage of things that supposedly we would have, on our charts. And they all said no. And so they were sort of making this conclusion, see, they're not really doing good care. We need to move these people out and get in, proper care. And finally, Doña Guadalupe looked over at me and she said, Estrella, why do they keep asking us this? And I said, well, they just kind of want to know, what you do. They want to hear and see what you do. And she said, well, why would we ask them something we already know? You know?
How many children she's had, how many babies she's had.
Right. So we often can, that's why I don't even trust when I see these presentations by these PhD, these people that supposedly study and know, and here's what we know about these people. I'm like, you're going on what they told you, and they're telling you, we're not listening to the story. So the story is, they already know all that. That's why they said, no, we don't ask.